Hi, YouTube. It's me again. I know I just made a video like last night about the recent movie I saw, the Bob Dylan movie, A Complete Unknown. But I'm here to make another video. I'm just video crazy. I have nothing else to do. I play video games. I clean the house, and then I sit here twiddling my thumbs. So to take a break from house cleaning and video game playing, I'm making a video. So here we go. This video is a comparison contrast of two of my all-time favorite movies. I have talked about these movies here and there in essays and other maybe mention them in other videos, but I really want to this might be a really long video. I don't know how long I'm going to talk about this, but this is going to be a long video probably because I'm doing a comparison contrast between two films that came out in 1999, and I give both of these films a perfect score, 5 out of 5 stars. They are in my catalog of best movies, classics at this point. And the director of American Beauty, Sam Mendes, and the director of Fight Club, David Fincher, in my opinion, cannot be praised enough for these amazing films that came out in 1999. Um, it's been 26 years, and I'm still talking about these movies. So obviously I have a very high opinion of these two films. And to this morning, I was just thinking about it. I was like, different writers. American Beauty was written by Alan Ball, and Fight Club was based on a novel written by Chuck Palahniuk. And totally different stories and different actors and different uh, action. But there are some themes that they have in common, and I want to talk about those themes and how those themes are presented to the audience and the differences regarding how the audience, like me, I represent the audience, okay? How it's perceived. And I've watched these films many, many times, and that's the beauty of a good film, a classic film will always bring you back to look at it to see if you see it different as you've grown, and to see if there's something else that you want to say about it. That's what a classic movie does. It makes you go back to it, and it makes you think about it again with different eyes, with different age, with different experience that you've gone through. And then you can have a new opinion about it, or see a character from it differently, or understand what the director was saying in a different way. So I want to talk about these two movies, 1999's American Beauty and 1999's Fight Club. Uh, let's start with American Beauty, and then we'll go to Fight Club, and then I'll make the comparisons and contrasts. Okay, so American Beauty. Uh, yeah, won lots of awards, blah, blah, blah. Forget the awards. Let's talk about the story. What is American Beauty about? Is it a comedy? Is it a tragedy? Why is it worth watching? Why do I keep going back to it? And why do I keep seeing new things in it? It is both a comedy and a tragedy. Right there. That's, you know, that's beautiful to me. If it can achieve both comedy and tragedy, which Fight Club does that as well. It is also a comedy and a tragedy. So they have that in common. Um, what's the framework of American Beauty? It's supposed to be the camera is supposed to be showing us what it's like to be in an American family. Is it the only American family? No, but I think this family is supposed to be typical. This is supposed to be the typical family. The family includes Lester, played by Kevin Spacey, Carolyn, played by Annette Bening, and Jane, played by Thora Birch. Lester is the dad, Carolyn is the mom, and Jane is the daughter. And they are supposed to be our American family, our typical American family. Are they? Yes, I think they are the typical American family. Um, and that's why it's a comedy and a tragedy. What happens is is pulling from a lot, in my opinion, in my mind. It's pulling towards a lot of other classics, but it's presented totally different. And maybe that's because it was in 1999, and it was presented. to depict what that year looked like to the director, and what that year looked like, to the writer. Uh, or maybe that's what it's been like. I'm 54, so I know I was almost 30 when this movie came out. And uh, you know, I had already looked at the canvas of America for 30 years when this movie came out. So I agreed that that's what it looked like in 1999. I agreed. Which eh, I mean, a lot of people don't want to look at that. They don't want to look at it that way. Uh, well, let's talk about why people like these characters or dislike these characters. The typical American family. Your Suburbans, right? This is Mr. and Mrs. Suburban, Lester and Carolyn Suburban. Okay. What are these people about? Well, Lester, he's a middle aged guy. Uh, he's not ugly. I mean, he has got a decent job, gets to wear his suit, commute to work, talk on the phone all day to people who don't give a crap about him, and basically he has to say the same thing every day, every day, every day. Sounds like a telemarketing job, but actually I think he's more like a customer service type of person, trying to make people happy, which is very difficult because when people are pissed off, they're not happy, and it's very hard to make them happy. And he does that day after day after day after day. Put on the suit, do the commute, go to work, kiss everybody's ass, come home, listen to the wife bitch, look at the daughter who's unhappy. Every day, every day, every. So upon first viewing of this movie, I empathized with that character. I understood the insanity of routine and the unhappiness that it can cause, and the feeling of that you've lost something inside of yourself because you're trying to make everybody happy, and all you see is that nobody's happy. Your wife's not happy, your daughter's not happy, the people on the phone that you aren't happy, nobody's happy. And then when does he snap? When does Lester snap? When the boss basically tells him you're expendable and you're probably going to be you know fired pretty soon. That's when Lester snaps. Then there's no more Lester after that. See, Carolyn doesn't realize that when they started threatening his job, that was the end of Lester. That pretty much, Lester died right there when they threatened his job. So he does a big switch right there. That's sort of like comparing it to Fight Club with the Edward Norton's character. Okay, let me switch to Edward Norton's character in Fight Club. You have Tyler Durden, which is Brad Pitt's character, and then you have the narrator, which I guess some people call him Jack. I don't really remember them ever calling him Jack, played by Edward Norton. And then you have Marla Singer, played by Helena Bonham Carter. Now, the narrator would be similar. Edward Norton's character would be similar to Kevin Spacey's character, Lester. Lester and Jack are at the same point. Basically, they're just tired of the same daily routine of trying to make everybody happy, and nobody's ever happy, not even themselves. So they snap. And Lester does it where he uses cutthroat blackmailing tactics, and basically goes back to his teenage boyhood with what he wanted to do when he was a teenager before he got married. He wanted a cool sports car. He wanted to smoke weed, and he just wanted to, relax and be like cool. So he goes back to that. So he makes himself happy. The narrator, Jack, the Edward Norton character in Fight Club, is really weird. He's not exactly like Lester. He's not. He just doesn't understand the point of anything. He's not married. He has no children because in his psyche, all he keeps thinking about is how awful his parents were and how miserable they were. So Edward Norton could be kind of like Jane's brother. You know what I'm saying? The Jack, the character. It would be almost like if Lester and Carolyn had had a son, it might have been Jack, the narrator of Fight Club, because Jack and Jane, right? I mean, it would be like, why would he want to get married after he's seen how the death of a salesman scenario? All right, so let's look at this again. Now, you have Brad Pitt's character Tyler Durden is always sort of a mystery in Fight Club. It's sort of like we never really know if it's a real character or not. Um, it's like a very mysterious character, the Tyler Durden thing. But Marla Singer, now that's an interesting character who cannot really be compared to any other character in American Beauty. I'm trying to find a Marla Singer in American Beauty, and the only thing that I can say, who would Marla Singer be? Let's look at the three women that we paid attention to in American Beauty: Carolyn, Jane, and Jane's friend Angela. Now, those three are like archetypes or stereotypes that we could look at. Which one of those could be a Marla Singer? Is it Carolyn? Is that what she becomes after her husband dies? Is it Jane? Is that what she becomes after she gets knocked up and her boyfriend goes to jail? Is it Angela after she becomes a supermodel and then loses her virginity to some douchebag who couldn't care less about her? I don't know. Which one's Marla Singer? Carolyn, Jane, or Angela? The after effect. Mm. All right, let's go back though. Let's go back to American Beauty. So you have I talked about Lester and his snapping point. Let's talk about Carolyn. Now, when I first saw this movie, I was on the fence between Lester and Carolyn. So I was kind of like a Jane and Jack watching Lester and Carolyn going, I don't really want to pick between mom and dad. I understand dad's feelings. I understand mom's feelings. And I really don't want to choose, which one's the righteous one because I really don't know. I really don't know which one's righteous. Maybe they're both right. And maybe that's the problem. They're both right. Isn't that awful? Anyway, but now I see what the director did. And maybe it's because Sam Mendes is a man. It was directed by a male. It was written by a male, Alan and Sam, both males who wrote this and directed this story and movie. And maybe that's why they depicted Carolyn as like the spazzy, crazy one. But the first 5 times, even 10 times that I watched this film, it's the direction that makes me judge Carolyn wrongly. Wrongly, I know I made that word up. I didn't judge Carolyn correctly. And that's because the director doesn't want you to. The director wants you to see Carolyn as the bad guy or the crazy one. She's the crazy one. Why is Carolyn crazy? Because she cares about a $5,000 couch? Because she's a materialistic bitch? Because she spends more time on her roses than talking to her daughter? Because she spends too much money on the clothes that she thinks are going to make her successful at selling houses? Why is Carolyn crazy? What is it about Carolyn? No, it's not her being a materialistic woman that makes Carolyn crazy. Why Carolyn spazzes out is because she's being strong. She's being the strong one, the one who is focused on how they got there and why they're there and what they're about. See, she doesn't look at it like Lester. She doesn't see the routine, and everything's boring and nobody cares and nobody's happy anyway. She doesn't see it that way. Carolyn sees, she's always remembering her past. She always remembers that she was the girl who struggled, who didn't have anything, who lived in a duplex. She always remembers that. She always remembers the value, how hard it was to get that car, how hard it was to get that house. She always remembers that. And when Lester's going to spill beer on the couch, she starts freaking out. Well, Jane and Lester don't understand that. Why the hell are you freaking out about a stupid couch? Because she knows. She knows that she went 8 months without selling a house. And that when she finally sold a house, she barely got enough commission to get that couch and the matching chair. She knows the value of that couch. But she looks like the psychopath. It's just a couch. She is depicted as the psychopath. Yeah. All right. So now we want to talk about uh, the other characters, and then I'm going to go back to Fight Club. The other characters include Jane, the daughter, Angela, her friend, and Ricky, Jane's boyfriend. And now with Ricky, we get to see a different American family house. We get to go into Ricky's house and see his parents, which is also a nice contrast. Not nice, I don't know if nice is the right word, which is also a good contrast to compare to uh, Lester and Carolyn's home. Now, Ricky has an abusive father. Ricky's father is a closet homosexual who was military, and his mother is basically a, a dead woman who just keeps the house immaculate, and I don't know, she looks like a dead statue. So that's Ricky's house, and I don't call that typical. I don't think that that's typical. I would say that that's tragic. That's a tragic house. It's immaculate. It's perfectly clean. They do nothing wrong. They are perfect, perfect, perfect citizens. They pay their taxes, and all they do is sit there and watch TV, and not a word comes out of their mouth, because if a word comes out of their mouth, uh, Ricky's dad is going to beat the shit out of him. Okay, great. That's not typical. That's not normal. That's something's wrong over there. Ricky knows it. And that's why he's always smoking the weed, so he can see how fucked up his family is. But he becomes friends with Lester, and he starts falling for Jane, Lester's daughter. So Jane is typical, and so is Angela. Jane and Angela are typical girls in high school trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do after high school's over. They are typical. Jane and Angela are typical. They're cheerleaders. They're both beautiful, and they're just dealing with peer pressure and regular teenage stuff. They're both very typical. Ricky is a little bit different because he comes from a very different house. And but Jane does fall for Ricky, just like, I mean, she has the same uh feelings towards Ricky that Ricky has for Jane. Now, Angela is the one who's a little upset about it because I think she really, was hoping that her and Jane would go through the same stuff together since they were cheerleaders together. And, she doesn't have a serious guy in her life. And she just was hoping that Jane, her best friend, was going to be the one to, graduate with her and do stuff together. So when Jane and Ricky get together, Angela is scared. She's scared because she knows she's going to have to face graduation by herself. And it gets a little creepier because then you have Lester and Carolyn, the older people, and what Jane and Angela are seeing from the older people. And Lester, he's totally like in lust with Angela. He's total, Angela reminds him of when he first met Carolyn, before Carolyn became such a materialistic woman, before Carolyn was so uh, career minded. That's what Lester sees. Lester looks at Angela and sees like his teenage boy again. That I just want that beautiful girl. He married a beautiful girl, and she grew into a smart, materialistic, ambitious woman. And so when he looks at Angela, he's reminded of his happiness when he was a teenager. He's reminded of his true self and what he really wants, which is sex. He really wants sex. Angela knows, and Angela knows how boys are, and that's what Lester has become. He's gone back to his boyness. So Jane doesn't like it because Jane didn't want her father to look like some horny teenager. Uh, Ricky, but she has Ricky. So Ricky from this very weird, terrible household is into Jane, and Jane and Ricky, they talk about everybody when they're together. They talk about their home lives. They talk about, Ricky's telling her what he wants to do as soon as possible, and Jane's into Ricky. Jane falls for Ricky. I mean, she's totally happy. She loves Ricky, and she wants to run off with Ricky as soon as possible because she just doesn't have any high opinion or respect for anybody else. She cares about Angela in a way, but she also feels like Angela is just competition and that Angela doesn't really care about her. She cares about her parents, sort of, but she thinks that they're both crazy, and they're not. They're just middle aged people. Uh, but she thinks they're crazy, so she doesn't want to deal with them either. So she falls in love with Ricky and she's going to run off with Ricky. Okay, that's pretty much the gist of the story. At the end of the story, basically, Lester gets shot. Ricky's dad did it, and Ricky gets blamed for it. And that's it. Okay. Uh, Now, let's compare this to Fight Club. We don't know much about the characters from Fight Club. We know a lot about the characters from American Beauty, but we don't know much about the characters from Fight Club. All we know is that there's the narrator, who some people call Jack, though I don't remember them ever calling him Jack in the movie. We know Marla Singer. She has a name, Marla Singer. And we know Tyler Durden, but we never really know which one is Tyler Durden. And we never really know if Tyler Durden is a real name or not. It's always sort of mysterious. So we don't know a lot. We don't know much about the three main characters of Fight Club. But let's talk about what we do know. What do we know about Brad Pitt's character? He makes soap. He has a business card. He meets Jack on a plane. They become friends right at a time where Jack blew up his apartment and he's homeless. He blew up his apartment and he's homeless. And he meets Tyler Durden on an airplane, and Tyler Durden sells soap. Okay, that's pretty much all we know about those two characters at the beginning. And then we get to know Marla Singer. Who the hell is Marla Singer? Well, Jack has been going to these shrink meetings, these, woe is me, I've got cancer, or woe is me, I've got testicular cancer, or woe is me, I'm an alcoholic, or woe is me, whatever. I've got some hard life psychological issues and I want to go to a meeting and drink coffee and listen to violin stories. So he meets Marla there. Marla, so obviously Marla, I we don't know. Is she homeless? She acts like she's homeless, but we don't really know because in one scene she's in sort of like this room. Is it an apartment? Is she renting a room? The scene where she wants to commit suicide. She's all alone in some room. I don't know. It never really explains if that's her apartment or if that's just like a hotel room. We don't know. We just see this very sad woman talking on the phone to Jack or Tyler and telling somebody, "Help! I'm lonely and I want to kill myself." That's all we really know about Marla. She goes to shrink meetings, and we don't know if she's homeless or if that little room was her apartment. Uh, and then there's Tyler, the soap maker, and uh, Jack. What did Jack do before he blew up his apartment? What was he? Ah, that's right. We know what Jack did. He was one of those. He worked for the insurance companies or the car companies. He knew all. That's what he told. He told Tyler on the plane. Tyler says, "I make soap," and Jack says, I know all the statistics about the recalls on the cars. See, so he was kind of like a Lester type, an office guy. He knew little factoids that not everybody knows. How many recalls on a car? How many parts were faulty? How many things, secrets that we don't know? Mm. So maybe that was making him go crazy too, not just routine or the emptiness that was found from materialism, but also just knowing things that made him see the dark side of humans. So, yeah, so he flips out, blows up his apartment, just like Lester flips out and blackmails his company. Uh, why won't he get involved with Marla? Why is he more interested in Tyler Durden than Marla? Is he gay? No, him and Tyler, I mean, Jack and Tyler are not having a homosexual relationship. I mean, somebody's actually having sex with Marla. Now, Marla thinks that Jack is Tyler. So Marla is trying to have this relationship with Tyler or Jack. We don't, Marla's confused too because she doesn't even know who he is either. She's trying to have a relationship because she's lonely. She feels all alone in the world. And then you have Tyler and Jack, and they are two men who don't, they're not gay, but you can't really, I mean, are they straight? They're not gay, but are they straight? All they want to do is go to these secret places and beat the shit out of other men. Why? Why do they want to beat the shit out of other men? What it is because they don't want to be a mama's boy. They don't want to wear fine suits that cost $2,000 and lie about a bunch of bullshit just so that they can buy a $5,000 couch. They'd rather go to some seedy place and beat the shit out of each other. Now, I want to talk about Carolyn and Marla because they don't have a lot in common. Carolyn has breakdowns. uh, you don't really see Marla having a breakdown, even when she's on the phone and she's all drugged up and she's suicidal. She don't even look crazy then. If you notice Marla through the whole thing, she could be watching the whole world explode, and she's pretty calm about the whole thing. Whereas Carolyn, who's representing materialism, having a good career, keeping it together, trying to be a good mom, a good wife. I know she cheated, but she's trying. She's trying to uphold the values of our America, of the family, of the system. Carolyn's really trying. But who's spazzing out? Is Marla spazzing out? She sees bombs exploding, people beating the shit out of each other. She lives in a dirt hole. She's homeless. She's taking rags out of the laundromat just so she has something to wear. But she's not having any spastics. She's standing in the middle of traffic. She's not spazzing out. Who's spazzing out? Carolyn's the one spazzing out. Why? Why is Carolyn spazzing out when Carolyn has the so-called normal life? She's got the nice couch. She's got the nice car. She's got a good job. She's got a husband and a daughter. She's got it all. Why is she the one spazzing out? How come the one with nothing is not spazzing out, but the one with everything is spazzing out? Pressure. Pressure. This is why I read Carolyn wrong all these years. I was looking at Carolyn like, what is wrong with her? No, pressure. There's too much pressure on Carolyn. Lester gave up. Jane gave up. Carolyn was the only one trying to hold on to it. And there was too much pressure. Then Marla gave up. They say everybody in Fight Club gave up. Tyler gave up. Jack gave up. Marla gave up. They all gave up. The only thing Marla was trying to do is maybe have some kind of love or relationship there. And, basically she sees that it's mostly just sex, but she doesn't want to be alone. She has nothing and she just doesn't want to be alone. Um, you know, there's a lot of comparison contrast. So what are these two movies saying? Is Fight Club telling us, men want nothing to do with the home life. They don't give a shit about what you cooked for dinner. They don't give a shit about the pretty dress that you bought. They don't want to go dancing. They don't give a shit about the poem you wrote or the painting that you painted. Is that what Fight Club is saying? They just want to go out there and beat the shit out of each other? I don't know. Is American Beauty saying your wife doesn't love you? She's going to cheat on you with Buddy because you suck in bed and because you're a loser and because she hasn't sold a house in 2 years and, that's the only way she knows how? Is that what American Beauty is saying? No, no. No, that's not what either movie is saying. Both of these movies, in my opinion, what the message that they both have in common is that it doesn't matter if you're in the American typical family or if you're alone, like Marla and Jack and Tyler. It doesn't matter. You have to come to terms, and you are confronted with these materialistic questions every day. Do you want to ride the bus or do you want to walk? Do you want to take a cab or do you want to drive your own car? Do you want to get in that Uber car with a stranger? You can't smoke. Mhm. And if you're drunk, they're probably going to kick you out if you act like an asshole. You have choices every day about materialism. Do you want free food? Well, you get what you get then. It's mashed potatoes and pork chops. You don't like pork chops? Oh, well, it was free. Or do you want to have a choice about what you eat that day? Listen, this is the thing, but it's pressure. It's pressure. Carolyn looks like she's always spazzing out. Why? Because she knows the value. She knows what freedom costs. And she's trying to tell her daughter, she's like, the only one you can depend on is yourself. She didn't want to tell her daughter that, but she has to tell her daughter that. But her daughter doesn't even believe her. Her daughter runs off with Ricky, thinking Ricky's going to be her messiah. Ricky's a drug dealer. He's eventually going to go to jail. Jane doesn't see that. Anyway, no, of course Jane doesn't see that. She's a teenager. These are really good movies. 1999 put out these two great movies. Now, back in 1949, I think it was, you had the two great movies, The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, which have definitely lasted, definitely defined what a classic is, and, were you know, the test of time. They passed the test of time. In 1949, those two movies passed the test of time. Now, these two 1999 movies, American Beauty and Fight Club, I believe are the end of the century's classics that will last, I think, the test of time because they depict what the end of the 20th century was. And I think we should keep them in mind and keep making comparisons and contrasts and notes about these two films that were definitive of the end of the 20th century.